just because you go into a room with a doctor or a dietitian doesn't mean they're going to be giving you cutting edge care. In fact, I had a job at a New York City hospital where my job was to actually educate the doctors and nurses on nutrition, not the patients. And I was blown away by how little biochemistry knowledge the doctors had. And if they ever had it, it was long, long ago, and they don't remember it because all they really had to do was figure out symptoms, pick a drug, pick a milligram dosage, and send people on their way. And look, doctors are amazing people. They are incredibly intelligent, but they are not chosen for their ability to think for themselves or to critically think. They have an immense ability to cram information into their heads, and they're able to, so I know cardiologists who, despite lowering their cholesterol to pathologically low levels, and I use that term specifically because of how important cholesterol is to the body, and this one cardiologist has had 4 stents, and his LDL levels, his low density lipoprotein, his considered bad cholesterol is about as low as you can get it. It's almost immeasurable. And he's had 4 heart issues. So, we have to break away from this, but these people are, in some cases willing to even sacrifice their own health for the dogma. And that is a dangerous place, in my opinion.
That's really important. And I guess an answer to the question too, which is that doctors themselves or practitioners themselves are willing to sacrifice their own health to support this dogma of this random dude from the 1950s.
Trust me.
But I think we can both say that at this point, I feel comfortable in no longer making dietary cholesterol specific recommendations to people in ways of consumption. Again, there are a small portion, I believe it's about 12% of the population who are genetic hyper responders. That's the most updated number that I've seen. And for those people, we still don't know if consuming cholesterol and your cholesterol being high is associated with a risk of heart disease. Right. So that's the confusing part. I will tell you, my interest in cholesterol started because I was on a vegan diet for 10 years. Do not recommend this. And I actually have chronically low cholesterol because of my liver output. So I have the opposite of you, and we came to the same conclusion, which is very cool, which is I mean, my LDL has been as low as 10 and my triglycerides have been 15. And I was not doing anything intentionally to lower cholesterol. And even after I consume meat, it's hard for me to get my cholesterol higher. I have to do liver specific work to do that. But I just want people to understand that there is a consensus when you apply critical thinking and research. And the consensus is that lowering cholesterol for the sake of lowering cholesterol is not necessarily correlative with lower heart disease. And high cholesterol, Jay, you can speak more to this, is not necessarily correlated with heart disease. Can you speak to the research on that?
Sure. One of my favorite papers that completely destroys this theory is 2009, the American Heart Journal. They published the Get With the Guidelines database, which was analyzed for all coronary heart disease hospitalizations from the year 2000 to 2006, all with documented lipid levels in the last 24 hours. So it was over 136,000 patients. And I'll actually send you the graph because I think to put this on the screen would be so advantageous for people to see. When I look at it, I see absolutely no correlation. There are heart events all over the map. In fact, the highest level of heart events were people that had an LDL level, which is, we can get into this. That's, again, I don't use the term good and bad cholesterol because there is only one cholesterol molecule. There's not good and bad. Right. But just to use the terms that people may be familiar with, the LDL, the low density lipoprotein, which is considered the bad cholesterol, the highest heart events were at a level of 90, which would be considered perfectly fine. They wanted under 100. There were people having heart events with LDLs at 20, 30, 40. So it didn't matter. And there were people also that had LDL levels of upwards of 220. But guess what? Their heart attack incidence were not any greater than the people, in fact, in some cases had less incidence than people that had LDL levels of 30. So what that says to me is it's just non-predictive.
Sure.
LDL and total cholesterol are non-predictive. And that study is an amazing study because it's the American Heart Journal. It's their own data set. And of course, the conclusion they came to, which is always makes me laugh, is that we're just not lowering it enough.
Oh, you gotta hit it harder.
20 is not enough. I mean, it's
no cholesterol. And
right.
This is even more important because in functional nutrition, the goal is always balance. The goal is not to just go as low as possible or as high as possible. So tell us, what would be a disadvantage, like in my case, let's say, of my having low cholesterol? What's a disadvantage of not having this vital, structure in our body? What do we need cholesterol for?
So let's talk about this, because I found a paper that I'd never seen before. But it was one of the best papers in laying out just sort of the role of cholesterol in a very dispassionate way.
Good.
Because cholesterol tends to get people going.
Heated.
Yeah. It's funny. It's one of the things that I post about on social media that gets the most pushback. And ironically enough, the people which I'm totally fine with. If you want to present a paper, I will always take a look at it. But what I find funny is that most of the time I'll put 5 papers in my story. I'll put 2 lectures by a cardiologist and a neuroscientist, and I'll cite all this literature. And then someone will say, "That's not true."
You're like, "What else do you want from me?"
Right.
Okay,
I mean,
I'm giving you it all.
Yeah. And they don't give me anything to rebut it. It's just, again, it's their opinion. But so this paper, I'm just going to read you a little list of some of the things, because I think this is so great, right? People never hear, if I say cholesterol to 9 out of 10 people on the street, they're going to say, "Oh, bad." Right? Immediately bad. Cholesterol comes to mind, it's bad. Very, very rarely do we hear about what it actually does. So in 1834, it was discovered, and it was actually called the principal element of the nervous system. 25% of the total cholesterol in the body is present in the brain, mostly in the myelin sheath, which helps nerve conduction. So the brain is the most cholesterol-rich organ in the body. Has a very long half-life. Actually, the brain makes its own cholesterol. That's how important cholesterol is to the body. The brain doesn't trust the liver. Apparently, they had a falling out at some point, and the brain makes its own cholesterol. So that's pretty cool. It makes up 30% of cell membranes. Extremely important. Bile acid. So if you want to absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K, you need bile acid. Cholesterol is a precursor to bile acid. It's the backbone of all steroid hormones and vitamin D analogs. And here are 2 of my favorite. Lipoproteins. So again, these are the packages that cholesterol moves around the body in. They bind and neutralize a vast number of envelope and non-envelope DNA and RNA viruses. Boy, that would have been nice to know, huh? And they also participate in host immune system by stopping bacterial proliferation. So they interfere with something called quorum sensing. When a bacteria is looking to invade a tissue in the body, it releases a protein in an effort to decide whether the area is ripe for invasion. And so the LDL molecule is able to actually eat up that protein to prevent quorum sensing and prevent bacterial infections. In fact, we see in people over 65, the people with higher levels of cholesterol die less of infectious disease and of cancer. Isn't that amazing? So cholesterol is a part of the innate immune system. So when people say, why do I want cholesterol? I just hand them that sheet and say, this is why you want cholesterol.